I have done my DNA test. I used two different ones, and I'd like to use a third one as well. My DNA test, which I uh, took part in, was the Ancestry and the 23andMe. Um, and I'd like to do, even though it's more expensive, the African Ancestry DNA test, which is a little bit more detailed as far as finding one's, narrowing it down to a tribal area in Africa. But that one cost 3 to 5 times more than the Ancestry or the 23andMe. The 23andMe is very good because it helps to link you with others that you have a DNA strand with, and you can actually communicate with them. But it also goes into medical issues and other things, which are an important part of DNA because, as we found out, our ancestry, a lot of times there are diseases that we're prone to because of our DNA and family history. So that's but what I found out was that I have a lot of ancestry. I'm very mixed cultured, but a lot of it is, I'm like almost 58% European, which basically meant that the slave masters loved my ancestors, my female ancestors down in the quarters.
Yep.
Not that that's funny, because that's about rape. And, a woman could never say no to someone who owned them as property. The other part is 38% sub-Saharan Africa. And what Ancestry, or should I say DNA tests, do is help you to narrow down what your ethnicity is, even though you have to understand that there may be other aspects of your DNA which don't show up in DNA tests. Like, for instance, my Indian ancestors go back like anywhere from 8 to 13 generations ago. And every time that you marry someone that's not in that ethnic group, it falls in half. So it went from half to a quarter to 12.5 to 6.25 in a matter of 5 generations. So the stories that the research that my grandfather and other ancestors have done is totally in line with what my DNA says about my Native American ancestors. But let me go into the fact that I think it's very important that we do our genealogy. For African Americans, this has been almost an impossible task due to slavery, due to Jim Crow segregation. And what happens is that a lot of times it is just too difficult. And it all starts with, I used to do a classroom exercise when I was teaching about in the era of immigration and the Great Migration, where I would have students do a family tree, where they would go back, and part of the assignment was to talk to your parents. If you have contact, talk to your grandparents, because really from the grandparents, that's where things really start to branch out. And it's an ongoing thing, and a lot of times the things that we find out in ancestry aren't necessarily accurate.
Yeah.
If we do a document search, census records, marriage records, um, just like for Mary Ellen Henderson, I knew who her grandparents were, who were my great great grandparents, and we went to the Library of Virginia, and we were searching for travel passes from when they moved from Winchester to Springfield, Illinois. But hidden within that travel pass, we were able to find out a whole nother generation beyond that person that we were looking for. So records are very important, and there's no substitute for actually doing the research at courthouses, archives, libraries, and historical societies in order to find out the true story of our ancestry and our genealogy.